Good morning, everyone. Just about on time. Now, I've got to say, I am demob happy. This is the last thing I officially have to do today, so hopefully I won't go too far off script. As Gareth said, we're joined today by three PhD researchers, Sean, Jordan and Owen. And got to say that this session was pulled together at very short notice to cater for some unexpected changes to the schedule. So I'm really grateful for the guys' responsiveness and flexibility. However, what we're doing here, looking at some emerging research and also looking at the people that will be shaping that emerging research, seems to be very much on point for AI Next. So, could I ask our panel to introduce yourselves? Guess starting with Sean and work around.
Yes, hello. My name is Sean O'Fihely and I'm a part-time PhD student, obviously enough in Ulster University, and my research is focused on federated learning. As I said, I'm doing my PhD part-time. I also work as a software engineer for Sensata Technologies out in Antrim.
Thanks, Sean.
I'm Owen Fernley. I'm a PhD researcher full-time at Ulster University, studying the intersection between explainable AI and semi-supervised learning to create white box models which can take advantage of unlabeled data.
Thanks.
I'm Jordan Vincent, and I'm a PhD researcher at Ulster and also a researcher at Ulster as well. And I rolled into that straight out of my bachelor's. That's how they get you. Oh, I'm an institutionalized man now. And my PhD and my research is in working with challenging spectroscopic data, very noisy portable devices, as well as poor data that would have been written off, and seeing if machine learning can help with that.
Super. Now, as I indicated on the call yesterday, this is probably the hardest question you're ever going to have to answer. But could you help the audience understand, what the research is, the potential impact of it in 30 seconds? Sean.
I'll try my best. So, as I said, yes, it's federated learning, which is a new approach to machine learning. It involves having a central server and a number of client devices. My research is looking at the client devices being sort of constrained devices, so the likes of a mobile phone, a watch. And what happens in federated learning is the machine learning model is run on that device. So it's very good for privacy, where privacy is very critical, so in medical applications and things like that. The model's run on the device, it gathers all its data, transmits it back to the central server, brings everything together, and then sends out a new updated model to all the devices. But there's lots of challenges wrapped up in that, and that's really what I'm trying to solve.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm mainly focused on creating or adapting interpretable white box models in order to take advantage of semi-supervised learning techniques. White box models have often gotten this reputation of because there's a trade-off between interpretability and performance, which in reality isn't entirely following the data and the research. White box models can often create just as accurate and more lightweight and understandable solutions than black box models when trained on the same data. But the advantage of black box models is their ability to take advantage of unlabeled data. So I'm attempting to create white box models that hold that advantage in order to create these interpretable models which maintain their interpretability while taking advantage of these semi-supervised learning techniques.
Super, thank you.
So, in terms of talking about what the potential for my PhD is, I think actually I'll talk about the two use cases I looked at. So, for my first part of my PhD, I looked at looking at really portable, tiny devices that didn't produce good quality data. And the horsemeat scandal was in everybody's head at that minute. And there's a lot of companies starting to produce those really small devices. So we were looking at, can we use those to have like a food safety, food science impact for that? And then the second use case was actually related to like emissions testing and trace gas detection, and that was looking for methane signals. Again, in both cases, data sets that had been kind of written off as not being very good. So what I'm sort of aiming for with that, and what I think the impact for a lot of that is it's not replacing analytical chemists or anything. It's making possible use cases that couldn't work otherwise, and that I think is the key thing for me. So I'm using machine learning to try and address challenges of the noise in the environment and that kind of thing. So.
Okay, thank you. I guess just maybe to look more at the general field of AI, I mean, based on your experience to date, I mean, what would you, Jordan, see as the biggest opportunity or perhaps the biggest threat around AI at the moment?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest threat for AI is the one that's already been discussed quite a lot today, which is that it's going to require changes to work and to people's jobs. As some of them it will replace, but I think the biggest opportunity in that is it's also going to make a lot of things possible that just haven't been before. There's a lot of accessibility advantages to AI, making things useful to people that need assistance in any way and that sort of thing as well. So I think they're not trivial challenges, either of them, but I think it's what I'm really interested in is making things possible that weren't before. That's my focus area.
Super. Owen?
I think it's another, this conference has already been focusing a lot on the accessibility and focusing AI on human first. I've read a couple articles from Harvard Business, from University of Sydney, all doing this research about AI trust and modern opinions on AI that focus on one very effective problem that's there harming the field is the black box problem, as they call it, where a lot of people don't understand AI and therefore are afraid of it. So this situation where you need an education specifically in AI in order to understand and trust and use it as an effective tool could be quite a large challenge. So the hope would be to create either tools for understanding or create AI tools which are more easily understood would be a good approach.
Okay, I mean, it's just an interesting point. I mean, but I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of technology that's in use today, the vast majority of people don't really understand how it works. I mean, even the mobile phone. I mean, why do you think is AI different? Or is it different?
I don't think it's that much different. I think as generations go by, people understand technology more and more. A sort of baseline understanding gets there. But there's this idea among the general populace who aren't educated in AI that a black box is ununderstandable, that it's data goes in, answers come out, and that you can't understand it. Whereas if we create tools that are white box and understandable by design, that can breed both trust and transparency.
Okay. A different panel perhaps, but I wonder, is it education or is it, a generational thing in that folks who've grown up immersed in what is today AI, black box, whatever, they'll just accept it? Anyway, that's a different conversation. Sean, over to you.
Just the general problems.
Yes.
For me, I think the misinformation angle is a huge concern. Deep fakes and all that sort of stuff. I think the saying goes that a lie's made its way around the world and the truth hasn't even got its shoes on. So just how we deal with that and systems and approaches that we can come up to detect when something is like a deep fake video or whatever, and try to highlight them, remove them, or whatever the approach is. But I think for me that's always a major concern.
Right. Owen's, I guess, scenario and research, kind of obvious synergies, but Jordan, Sean, I mean, the concerns maybe that you've outlined, I mean, do you see them directly affecting your work?
I mean, some of the transparency directly affected mine. I mean, for my PhD, I made a very deliberate choice to choose machine learning models that were more easily interpreted and more transparent. And part of that was because when you're working either with food science or when I was working with the gas detection, which I had a plasma physicist, for example, working with me on that. So I just put another paper in recently about looking at spoilage in milk with handheld spectrometers, and that's with a colleague in France. And part of the goal of that for me was that I need them to be able to look at the model at the end of the day, and I need to be able to say, it's looking here, here, and here for information. Is that sane? Or more importantly, is it insane to be looking there? So I think if you're collaborating with people as well, things like that are really important, because that helps cross-check and validate what you're doing as well.
Okay. Any other thoughts, Sean?
Well, in my research, I suppose there's not major concerns about things like deep fakes, but I'm looking to maybe build networks of sensors that could be in very remote locations. So in terms of trust in the data, I'm focused on, or really interested in trying to develop systems or approaches that we can trust the information that is coming into the central server, trust the information that's helping build our model. So it works in that respect, but as I said, it's not necessarily a deep fake concern.
Okay. Sean, to stay with you, I mean, I guess what prompted you to do PhD in AI? I mean, why PhD? Why AI?
Well, as I said, I'm sort of a software engineer now, but I was by trade I'm an electronics engineer, and weirdly, as an electronics engineer, you write an awful lot of code. So you're either programming microcontrollers or doing data analytics. From a lot of the testing I was doing, I ended up doing a lot of the data analysis stuff, and that made me think towards sort of getting better at doing that type of thing. Then I seen that the PG Cert in AI was available through Ulster as part of the Scale Up program. So I did that in about 2020, progressed on to the master's course where I did a research project. I've always really enjoyed those practical projects, a more research focused one. So did quite well in the master's, and then the opportunity came up to do a PhD, and I've always been that bit of a sort of geek that I kind of always thought it would be cool to have a PhD. So I thought the stars have aligned and on I go.
Super. Owen?
Similar to Sean, my background's actually more hardware focused. I did my undergrad down in Maynooth University in robotics. And after I graduated, I moved to the Netherlands to work in semiconductors. And after working there for a couple of years, I ended up getting sick for a number of months. And I had some time to rethink what I actually enjoyed about development and technology. And I found that the part of robotics and the part of technology that interested me the most was AI, and how it can be implemented in the world, and how we can best forge the future of AI to make a positive impact.
Okay. Jordan?
So how I got into this was, I wasn't hardware at the start, I was software, so I came up doing computer science at Ulster as a bachelor's. And there was two things that I always liked going through that. One was physics, in particular spectroscopy. And for those of you that don't know what that is in this context, it's that experiment from secondary school where you put light through a prism, split it out, and depending on what the chemical is, you get different places of light. And I've always liked AI stuff. So for my bachelor's, one of the lecturers happened to mention for my end project, we've got one of those. You could play with it. So I jumped at the chance and I did an AI project around that for the end of my bachelor's. And then at the end of that, he turned around to me and went, there's a PhD going in that as well if you want. And yeah, jumped at the chance of that too. And here I am.
Okay. I don't know if you had a chance to see Lolly Mancy's keynote. She introduced the concept of, I guess, the portfolio career, and I kind of get the sense that, in particular, Owen and Sean, you've kind of been sort of following that path. Just to take it maybe to the logical extension, I mean, what is your long-term ambition here? I mean, do you have any specific career goals from an AI perspective?
Well, for me, I'm very open to anything. Try never to close the door. But I think I would be very keen on maybe trying to start my own business. I don't know what form or shape that would take at the minute. I'm at very early stages of my PhD. But I like the idea of sort of trying to build something locally, in the north, in the south, that sort of works for the people here, sort of just build a sort of a homegrown company, I think would be good, and certainly a company are doing work that is on the edges of new technology. It's helping push things forward. I think if everything comes right, that would be great.
Well, there's people in the room who I'm sure would be happy to talk to you about that. Owen?
Along the lines of that sort of portfolio career, that life of moving in between rests and education and work, I think any year, any day you ask me that question, I might have a different answer. But all of it leads towards a constant state of learning and researching and creating. That's really what I have the passion in creating and researching and educating myself, as well as educating others. So I think more than likely I would look for a position in a university to help people the way my educators have helped me.
So shape the shapers of the next generation. Excellent. Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I love working in the university, and I've done a lot of the teaching aspects of that as well as the research. I've taught modules. I'm a kayaking coach outside of that, actually. I love teaching people things, so there's definitely a world where I end up as a lecturer in the university for my long-term career, but in the immediate future, I love doing the hands-on research at the minute with companies. It's a very direct impact, and it's fantastic when you solve a new problem and then the company turns up and goes, I want that, give it to me. So in the immediate future, I think I'm going to continue along that road.
Thanks, folks. Now, Gareth, I'm either a few minutes over or a few minutes under. Which is it? Okay, that's a message in itself. Thank you very much, folks. Hope everybody enjoyed that, and feel free to talk to the guys afterwards. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I am out of here.